What is up, YouTube? Today we are training shoulders, one of my favorite muscle groups to train. And today, actually, before we even get into it, if you have not, please make sure to subscribe. It means a lot to me. We are still a growing channel, and obviously, all the help and support is needed. So today we start off with the military press. This has become one of my favorite movements for developing the shoulders. And I had a bodybuilding coach a long time ago. He said, Adrian, if you cannot rep your own body weight at the military press, do not complain about having it shoulders. And I've always loved that because it's kind of like giving yourself almost damn near a prerequisite for like even before you complain or ask questions, because everyone talks about like, you got to hit the rear delt, and it's the rear delt. And the rear delt is important because it opens up your posture and makes it really so that you can really present your shoulders really well. But the truth of the matter is when you really hit that compound movement, you really do develop the overall delt muscle. Today, you're not going to see us do it, but, even doing the military press from behind the neck, all of the deltoid, it really gets activated, right? So really emphasizing those compound movements and developing them and getting stronger at them really is going to be what carries you along the way. So today what we're doing is we are ramping. So we start off with the easiest weight, which was 135, which you just saw in the last clip. And then we move up to about our own body weight, so now 185. And then we're going to move up to about 195, which is about how much I weigh. Now the trick here that I've noticed is with the Smith machine, the movement pattern is predetermined, which is helpful. It makes it easier than a free weight. But what I do like to do is I actually like to press into the metal bars of the Smith machine. And that actually makes the contraction a little bit different. And it does feel like you're hitting the front delt a little bit differently. So if you guys haven't done that or haven't played around with that, I really do recommend that you give that a go because it does give a different contraction. Next, we move into our last set, and one of the things that I've always loved, from like getting a coach from a while back was this saying where it's like, don't ever, nudge at a 4x10. Because when you nudge at a set or really a predetermined amount of reps, then you should be asking yourself, like, did I choose the right amount of weight to really be engaged with? Because a 4x10 shouldn't be nudged at. After about the second rep or third rep, you should know that you're going to get 10 reps. But the thought of like, oh man, I might fail, I might really get challenged here, that should kind of cross your mind within the first couple repetitions. And I've always found that to be true. And that makes me, that mindset helps me think about whenever, I do see a 4x10 or I see a set with only 6 repetitions to really question myself if I'm using the right amount of weight. So then we are going to be moving into the seated machine press. Some machines will have this kind of loaded, and then other gyms will kind of have this kind of in the machine in and of itself. Now these clips cut, so the clips are going to come out in weirdly. But notice that I'm putting my hands in the neutral grip position. The neutral grip position really helps me hit the front delt a lot differently. And I think a lot of people think about delt training incorrectly. They think about the delt as front delt, lateral delt, rear delt, where in reality, that's not really how the shoulder is comprised. It's more so like, it's like a bundle of fibers. And I've made this video years ago on my last shoulder day training, but you need to think of the shoulder in that manner, that the shoulder is dynamic. And typically the more dynamic the muscle group is, the harder it is to develop, right? That's the reason why we have this saying, the show is won from the back. Same thing can be said with the shoulder. The shoulder is a very dynamic muscle group, and since it's so dynamic, it makes it hard for a lot of people to develop. And that's because people really limit themselves to this ideology that it's just front, lateral, and rear. You really want to hit the delt from different angles. So even having my hands in this different position helps me hit the delt differently. And the thing that I'm thinking about when I'm pressing here is like just kind of like stacking and keeping that alignment and that movement pattern. You're going to feel it in the front delt differently when you have your hands placed in this position versus when they are on the other side of the handle, if you're looking at the clip right now that we're talking about. So yeah, and you guys can see like I'm really driving, really pushing through. Don't want to move my feet too much because that obviously will kind of take away energy from me. But definitely want to be challenging myself. I want to feel like as I hit that last rep, I really have been challenged. Next, we're going to move into another exercise that I really like. These are called lateral swings, and they're very similar to partials. The difference is that with a partial, you are doing a lateral raise, but once you reach technical failure, then you start moving to this kind of partial repetition. Lateral swings are different in where that the actual full range of motion, you are starting, or you're really finishing in almost that partial-like position. So a full repetition is only going out to that initial third. And when you do this exercise, the way to kind of milk or get the most results out of it is to use a really heavy weight and to be doing high repetitions. A set will typically be about like 40 reps, honestly. And this is a really old school bodybuilding exercise. You don't see a lot of people do it a lot anymore, but it's a great exercise. And it does go to show that, you know, sometimes you really do have to kind of like use things outside of the book. But next we're going into the Y raise, or the chest supported raise. I really like to dig my head into this. And then the other teaching cue I like to give myself is to pretend that there's a string attached to your elbow and that someone's pulling on that string. That's really going to help you engage that lateral delt. And one of the things that I want people to really notice is that as I go down, I actually don't sit at the bottom. That's one of the things that affects a lot of people when they do lateral raises. They rest at the bottom. The minute you get to the bottom, you're back up. And that allows the constant tension to being held at the lateral delt. The other thing that I really like about the Y raise is because you remember how I said that the lateral raise the delt should be thought of as the front, the lateral, and then the rear. Well, with the Y raise, you're kind of getting that in between portion between the front delt and the lateral delt, and that really does help cap out the deltoid muscle, because then you're hitting the fibers from those different angles. And that's like what I mean when I say like this whole bodybuilding thing, and when you're sculpting a body, there's not really like a clear-cut science to it. And that's why I'm not trying to like knock on the science-based community. That's not what I'm talking about right now at all. Honestly, we can talk about that later and make another video on that. But what I'm trying to get you guys to realize is that like a lot of this stuff is art, right? Like you're sculpting something. And obviously right now I have a little bit more of a higher body fat percentage and we're putting on weight, so the muscles aren't as defined. But a lot of this though, like when you do get leaner, you can really see the definition and the sculpture that you're creating. And that ultimately happens, you know, by being creative and, you know, thinking about like what does the body look like and kind of sculpting it. So nothing too crazy. There the delts did one other exercise. I wasn't able to film it, but that was just the lateral dumbbell raise, reached technical failure, and then got some supported or assisted reps. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. Make sure to subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one, and peace out.